go.
definitively that he was going to testify.
Oh, yay!
Can you paint
Purple's
a picture
out.
of the disaster that might be for him?
Like, it's very unorthodox for any criminal defendant to take the stand in her own defense because, again, in a criminal trial, the burden is on the government to prove the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a very high standard. Any kind of doubt can be room for a jury to acquit.
Oh,
And
there's a
so
little bit of it. I'll
the
try
defendant doesn't
again.
have to do anything.
No! No! So red's eliminated.
And giving the prosecution an opportunity to cross-examine you, to put
Don't let my brother.
to shore up their own story.
Oh,
Disastrous. Most lawyers would tell their clients, no, do not do this. But again, most lawyers don't have Donald Trump as a client. And as Michael Cohen said, this has got to be really nerve-wracking for the defense team because this is a man who consistently shows that he loves to talk, he loves to talk about himself, and he's not particularly tethered to the truth.
Oh, we're just the next to get out of here, but not eliminated.
Before it goes to sort of evidence of Trump
No!
as a New York character. I'll read a quote from David Corn. The trial casts a light on an important slice of
There's a color order of people. Maroon, you're out of here. That's eliminated.
My question to you is, does that have an effect on the American public at this point? Are we used to it, or is it a negative reminder of all the sort of distasteful things about Trump that will have a meaningful effect on the election?
Oh, Maroon's up to number 4.
There's a poetic kind of justice to this being the first Trump trial. So if you're thinking about this as a narrative, you know, and
Sorry, Mark Blue, but you cannot join anymore.
The classified documents trial in time for the election. I could go with the argument of like, it's great that this is the first one because it really is kind of going in sequence, and we get to see. We get to see what he did in office. This was pre-presidency. Then we get presidency. Then we get post-presidency.
Well,
We
so
get the right way to tell the
that's
story of this guy.
sorry.
I think that as of the three of them, it's the one that has the least.
Yeah,
If you were like, we can only get one of these trials done before election day, which one do we want? I think it's not the one you would pick because I think that doesn't mean it doesn't matter to people. I think that we've seen some polling that suggests that 2/3 of the country thinks this is a serious charge, doesn't dismiss the charge. It is if you go out and talk to people in the country about it, it's not the thing that for Trump voters obviously don't care. Democrats already understand Trump's misogynist, he's tawdry and all that stuff. And there's these people in the middle who I think have lots of problems with Trump and have things that are they repulsive and dangerous. They don't necessarily think that paying hush money to a porn star is the reason that they're going to not vote for him. And more likely, if you could demonstrate that Donald Trump was a seditionist and was convicted of that, man, that's probably a ball game. And I think the classified documents case also is just a very clear-cut thing. Presidents should not be doing this, and a lot of people have a lot of respect for that. This gets more into maybe pricing the stuff.
Sleazy, but maybe not disqualifying. There's going to be new stuff, though. I mean, it seems quite obvious that Alvin Bragg is going to be presenting new evidence, new witnesses. It's not just going to be the Michael Cohen song and dance.
I think that's right. I don't disagree with what you say, John, but I would say part of the reason why this feels a little relevant to a lot of voters is how we talk about it. I mean, there's something salacious about it, there's something tawdry about it, but when you look at it, Andrew and I talk about this in our book, when you look about this, you look at this in sort of the sweep of the 4 indictments, it's like he's gearing up with this one, and it's sort of pattern and practice of doing everything to get what you want. And that was something that marked his presidency. We saw like in these moments where the Supreme Court would strike down things that the Trump administration did, it was because they literally would do anything to get the outcome, even if it meant circumventing the normal channels that you had to go through. And this is kind of the same thing. January 6th is just a more elaborate version of that. To just stay in power, I literally will allow insurrectionists into the Capitol. So this is just the beginning of a pattern and practice. I think if you talk about it like that, maybe that moves the needle and gets the public animated about the other trials that they're probably not going to see.
Can I follow and then ask just like what your expectation is for Bragg, who by all accounts there was a big New York Times Magazine profile on him. He's a very methodical individual, risk averse. You heard Michael Cohen say he would never brought this case if it was just what you know now. Like this guy has done his homework. What's your expectation?
I think almost any prosecutor is. I mean, the burden is so high on the prosecution to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt that you don't just bring anything before a jury. I mean, you really have to believe that your case is airtight, that you can tell this story to 12 people and they're all going to be with you at the end. And so, you know, Alvin Bragg, he's a really good lawyer. The folks on his team are good lawyers. Matthew Colangelo, the senior prosecutor on this, former clerk to Justice Sotomayor, he's a real lawyer.